Oh hi, I didn't see you there. You may have noticed that Erling Haaland has scored loads of goals, but did you know he scores goals in a very specific way, in a very specific part of the pitch? It's the back post chance, and to tell me what that means and why this is interesting is Dr. Mark Carey, a scientist.
Former scientist.
Yes, and if you like scientists, please do subscribe to our channel because we have lots of videos and it means you'll be able to see them all. That would be lovely. Please do subscribe. Now, Mark, let's talk about Erling Haaland scoring loads of goals at the back post and Man City scoring lots of goals at the back post. What do we mean by a back post chance? It seems obvious.
Yeah, well, it kind of is. I've defined it very specifically, but it's what we can see here on the board. It is a player, in this case, Bukayo Saka for Arsenal, playing it across goal, and on the next slide you can see a simple chance being finished by Leandro Trossard.
Yes.
It is what we expect. This is another example, Bruno Fernandes playing it across for Marcus Rashford to finish.
Well, let's see that on the board. I want to see this as a tactics board.
Yeah, well, this is how I've defined it. So I've basically stripped out this sort of centre part of the goal, but the chance, the back post chance has to start on the outer side of the post. It has to end from the far third of the goal all the way up to the penalty area. So if we were to think about it, yeah, like that. We're trying to beat each other to it. It's anywhere in that sort of zone. And I think this is really interesting tactically why the back post chance is quite lucrative and how the defending team tend to be the one to invite the attacking team into creating the chance. And that can be for a couple of reasons. So it might be that the ball is being drawn onto the far side and all of the defence shifts along, and then there's a free chance for the attacker
like
here.
A winger or something like that coming in the back post,
like the Trossard example. It might be that sometimes they shift across and there's a gap because the defensive fullback doesn't necessarily want to tuck in or doesn't have the awareness to tuck in, and there's a gap to be exploited.
And that could be a striker or a winger, I guess, anyone running into that space.
Exactly, yeah. Or they do tuck along quite well, yet still the attacker, a central striker, whoever, does just basically have the beating of the fullback because the fullback is often smaller and not as strong aerially, and they'll just beat them for height.
Okay, so why then is this relevant particularly to Erling Haaland? Is he scoring a lot of these goals, or is there some sort of reason, like perhaps Man City are creating lots of these chances? Yeah,
well, as you can see by the graphic, City have created the most back post chances this season. They also have one, I think Arsenal ever so slightly higher, but Manchester City create some of the most chances in the league anyway, so it's not too surprising.
Well, this is it. Is it because they're it's a high value chance, so they're focusing on it, or is it because they're creating loads of chances?
Yeah, the raw number is they are also creating a high number of chances, but as a consequence, high back post chances. But if we go on the next slide, you can see that as a share of the total chances that they create, they are also creating the highest share of back post chances for the past 5 seasons.
Now I've noticed something in this last one. This is when Erling Haaland signed. So is this relevant?
Is correlation causation? I don't know. To use a statistical term. But I think so. I think that it is the case. And we can see it in a number of examples here. Some of these are goals, but some of them are just chances.
Right.
But I think in this example, it's really fun because Haaland's not even looking at the ball as De Bruyne gets it out of his feet, but he's trying to position himself between the fullback and the centre-back, like the example that I gave before. Simple back post chance for him to finish. This one is like the third example that I gave, that he's trying to get the beating of the fullback, knowing that Nelson Semedo isn't as strong aerially as he is.
So he's targeting that fullback.
He's targeting that fullback. He knows that De Bruyne is going to find him. He beats them aerially very easily. Comprehensive. This is a sort of a similar one, but it's more behind the defensive line for a simple pass across the goal. And he knows that, again, he got between the fullback and the centre-back. These all look like really easy chances, but they're crafted kind of with more intelligence than we could sort of care to imagine. And this final one isn't even necessarily a chance created. It's actually Foden hitting it off the post, but the player who's waiting at the back post is Erling Haaland. So it shows that where he likes to be is often at the back post to finish for a simple tap-in.
Because it's a lucrative place to be to score goals, right?
It's a lucrative place to score goals. You can see in this graphic here that there's more right to left chances, like that De Bruyne to Haaland example.
Because of De Bruyne?
I think that they've connected the most for back post chances. I think De Bruyne is able to find anyone on the pitch.
Is it because Haaland's left-footed as well, maybe going to that back post?
Exactly. I think that's a real positive as well, and you can see that he's aerially dominant as well from the examples before. But there's a couple of examples where it's more deep towards the byline, but a lot from that half space in the sort of the De Bruyne zone. And Haaland knows where he's going to put it. He can put it on a sixpence. So
Man City are targeting this because they know they've got De Bruyne that can make the pass, and Haaland who'll be in the right place at the right time, or whoever's in the left wing can come in and get a chance at that post.
Exactly that,
I like it. Who else is good at this? Are the other teams focus on it? Why not the cutback? Is that not a more prominent thing?
Yeah, something we can sort of speak about as well. But Brentford, as you can see here, are the highest. I think that feeds into the fact that they are quite cross-heavy. Their strength is in set pieces. We know from their throw-ins as well that they've kind of brought that into their open play, that they are able to find the back post very neatly. I think that's really interesting that they're right at the top. I think it's really interesting that Leeds are right at the bottom because they are just a team who, under Jesse Marsch especially, I know he's not there anymore, funnel into the centre of the pitch. They're not interested in crossing at all, so it feeds really neatly by the numbers that they aren't interested in.
But isn't that quite a high value way to score a goal to get through the middle? Because then the middle is where you get high value chances, right?
Yeah, but it's a very dense part of the pitch, right? You want to kind of get it into wide areas and, like the examples before, maybe kind of get behind the defensive line for a simple tap in, and Leeds seem to be trying to just force the issue a little bit.
So Brentford are doing so well because they have a lot of focus on, you don't have to do wing play or central play, but they have really good wing backs, which is why you see Brentford's here. A lot of chances from Rico Henry specifically on the left side.
Exactly, yeah.
From Leeds would just be through the middle.
Exactly, from the deep side near the touchline, it's often going to Brian and Buemo on the right side, but you can see nearly double from left to right, and often they are from Rico Henry, yeah.
So if the best teams are doing it, should everyone be going for these kind of working out a way to get the ball to the back post, or like a real way that teams like Arsenal and Man City seem to score goals? We have a video on this, is the cutback. So you'll get someone to this sort of area and then who cut it back. Because if you have a striker going to the front post, naturally the defenders will drop this way to get backwards, which then leaves space for someone behind. But that seems quite lucrative. Is that, I mean, what's better or what teams should be doing?
Well, yeah, it's tough. I think that's why I think the defending team often makes the decision for the attacking team, because I think the defensive team are more aware of the cutback now, so they're less likely to drop. So if you can get in that position, like I showed you before, with De Bruyne getting beyond the defensive line, then that gap between the goalkeeper and the defence is so big that you can actually then just get into it, and then Haaland's got a simple tap in there. I think the other example is that if they don't drop too deep as well, De Bruyne and many players have the quality to be able to just find that gap with the gap that's left between the goalkeeper and the defence. And that's where the difference between the cutback and the back post chance is decided by the defensive team.
All right, well, last question then before we finish this. So if you can then get a player who can cross from here to get to the back post, who can get in behind and do this, and who can also play cutbacks, and you've got players who can score all these different goals, what do defence do?
Well, this is the thing, they're caught between a rock and a hard place. I think when you've got someone of the quality of a De Bruyne or a Haaland or anyone at Manchester City, they can do either. But if you're trying to dictate it and know that a certain player isn't as strong on a certain position, if you give them the space from maybe this half space here, they're not going to be as threatening, then you could maybe just drop a little bit or push a little bit tighter.
So can you only do this with good players?
It's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, we're talking about the Arsenal and Manchester City example. They do have the quality to be able to do either.
Yeah, you don't see many goals scored back post by the bad teams, do you?
This is the thing.
Maybe that's why they're bad. And that is back post chances.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.